Ever stop to think about what's actually going on inside your own head? I mean, the real architecture of your mind? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and look at the blueprint of our thinking. This is the system that runs literally everything. What you do, how you feel, what you believe. So let's dive right in.
So what if you had the user manual for your brain? I mean, a real guide that explains exactly how you process information, how you make decisions, and even how you build your own reality. Well, getting a handle on the basics of cognition, that's probably the closest we're ever going to get to having one.
All right, so think of this as our grand tour of your mind's operating system. We're going to look at the whole blueprint, piece by piece. We'll start with how the raw data even gets in, and follow it all the way to the complex machinery that, actually creates meaning out of it all. Okay, part one, gathering the data. First things first, right? How does the world out there get in here into our heads? This is the absolute foundation, the very first layer of our cognitive architecture. These are the input channels. So this whole input thing happens in a really neat three-step flow. First, you've got sensation. This is just the raw data hitting your senses, light, sound, that kind of thing. But on its own, it's just noise. It's meaningless. That's where step two, perception, comes in. It starts organizing all that sensory data into patterns we can recognize, and then the most crucial step of all, attention. This is the filter that decides what's important enough to actually think about.
Yeah, I absolutely love this idea of attention as the gatekeeper of consciousness. It's so much more than just focus. Think of it like a bouncer at the club door of your mind. It's the one deciding who gets in and who stays out. Seriously, without that bouncer, our brains would just be a chaotic mess of scattered noise. Nothing would ever get done.
All right, part two, building understanding. The data is in. It's been filtered by our bouncer, attention. So now what? What does the mind actually do with all this stuff? Well, now we get to the really cool part, the core machinery that builds meaning.
It's really these three core processes working together. You've got memory, which is basically your brain's database of past experiences. That's all your raw material. Then you have reasoning, the engine room, the gears that start turning. It takes that material from memory and starts connecting the dots. And finally, comprehension. That's the end game. It's the act of taking all those pieces and building them into a coherent picture, a solid understanding of what's going on.
And this quote just nails it. Reasoning is the architecture of coherence. It's not just about solving some logic puzzle, right? It's the system that brings order to chaos. It takes all those scattered bits and pieces of what we perceive and actually builds a stable, understandable structure inside our heads. It's a game changer.
Now here's something absolutely critical to get about memory. We tend to think of it like a video camera, right? Like we're just hitting play on a perfect recording. But it's not like that at all. It's a dynamic reassembly. Get this. Every single time you remember something, you're not just retrieving it, you are actively rebuilding it from scratch. And that process can be totally shaped by how you're feeling right now or the situation you're in. Okay, let's move up a level to part three, the command center. We're heading into the executive suite now. This is the part of your mind that actually governs all those other processes we just talked about. This is where you, consciously, take the helm.
And the boss of this whole operation? That's your executive function. It's literally the CEO of your brain. The fancy term is metacognitive control system, but all that really means is it's the part of your thinking that thinks about your thinking. It's what lets you plan ahead, stop yourself from, eating that entire cake, and it's what allows you to be flexible and change your mind when you learn something new.
But work, even the best CEO can't sit there and analyze every single tiny decision from the ground up. It would be exhausting. So to save a ton of mental energy, the brain uses heuristics. These are basically mental shortcuts, like judging a book by its cover. It's super fast and efficient, but it's not always right. And that's the key trade-off. We're trading accuracy for speed.
And this comparison shows that trade-off perfectly. We're all basically running on two different operating systems all the time. On one side, you have System 1. That's your fast, automatic, intuitive thinking. It's your gut reaction. It's where all those heuristics live. On the other side, you've got System 2. This is the slow, deliberate, effortful part of your brain. It's the analytic, logical thinker. The real art of thinking, then, is knowing which system to use and when. When do you trust your gut, and when do you need to stop, slow down, and really think it through?
But here's the catch, and it's a big one. Those super useful, energy-saving shortcuts from System 1, they're also the source of our biases. Now, a bias isn't just, a bad opinion. It's a systematic deviation. Think of it like a predictable glitch in your mental software. It's a bug that can consistently warp how you see reality, and the scariest part is, it happens without you even noticing.
So, if our brains have these built-in glitches, how do we get past them? How do we actually master our own thinking? That brings us to our final section, Part 4, the art of thinking, and we've got some advanced and maybe even surprising tools for you here. Okay, now this is going to sound a little weird, a little paradoxical. We spent all this time talking about command centers and control systems, but it turns out one of the most powerful things you can do with your mind is let go.
There's a term for this, yielding. And let's be clear, this is not about being passive or just giving up. It's an active, deliberate strategy. It's for when you're totally stuck on a problem. You intentionally suspend that intense, focused, analytical control. You step away. And what that does is it lets your unconscious mind take over and start making all these new creative connections that your focused brain was completely missing. You know that aha moment you get in the shower? That's yielding in action.
And for our final tool, we have the ultimate cognitive reset button. It's called zero-based thinking. This is the discipline of looking at a problem and questioning every single assumption you have about it. It's like wiping the slate clean and starting completely from scratch. This is how you shatter old patterns of thought and create the space for real, groundbreaking innovation. So, as we wrap up our tour of the mind's blueprint, if there's one thing to take away, it's this. Our cognition, our thinking, it's not some static, clunky piece of machinery.
No, it's more like a living, breathing dialogue. It's this constant dance between what we already know and what we're just discovering, a dance between taking control and knowing when to let go.
Because ultimately, every single moment of thought is an active, creative process. Your mind isn't just a passive observer of the world. No way. It's continuously, actively building it. And so that leaves us with one final, powerful question for you. Now that you have a peek at the blueprint, you have a whole new level of power, of agency over your own mind. The only real question left is, what are you going to do with it? Now that you know you're the architect, what will you choose to build?